Good morning. This is Larry Straub, and I'm going to do our Chapter 2 video post for today and week 2. And just wanted to welcome y'all, anybody that's needing to look at this to keep up with the course. I've had some students in quarantine already, and already seeing a big wave of them back. Had a little bit of a scare with the baseball team, but that cleared out. So probably see some folks in and out of classes and completely understand that. So I'll keep doing these video posts weekly to try to keep everybody up to date as best we can. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. Today's chapter is measuring performance and operations and value chains. I'll kind of go through some of the high points of today's chapter. By the end of the chapter, hopefully we'll be able to describe the types of measures used for decision making, explain the use of analytics and operations management, how internal and external measures are related, and explain how to design a good performance measurement system, and describe 4 models of organizational performance. The act of quantifying the performance involves organizational units, goods and services, as well as processes, people, and other business activities. I think I may have talked about this before, but operations management is where 3 things kind of meet: accounting, operations, and logistics. So accounting, probably general management might be a better term than operations, and logistics. So it's where those 3 things come together. But the measurement systems that we'll be talking about with operations management kind of provide a scorecard of performance, and they help identify gaps within those performance metrics. So if you should be at this level and you're not, it helps identify those gaps so that we can attack them and work on. More businesses are doing a better job of sharing data and information at all levels of organizations and workforces. And so I think that trend will continue. Businesses have definitely seen the benefits of that. Some of the performance measures that you can run into as you work with operations management. You can see the different categories from financial, customer and market, quality, time, flexibility. A couple of ones that are really important to pay attention to is innovation and learning. For a lot of organizations, but particularly for research-based organizations, productivity and operational efficiency, and sustainability. And sustainability is one that's really come to the forefront in the past couple of decades as global warming and climate change have become so much a part of the discussion that consumers are starting to pay attention to businesses and how they deal with these types of issues, and then making decisions on whether to do business with them or invest in those companies based on how they do on the sustainability metrics. Another big one that's come about of late is customer satisfaction. Measurements and metrics provides a company with customer ratings of specific goods and service features, indicates the relationship between customer ratings and likely future buying behavior, which is what makes it really important. If you've been to restaurants of late, if you use their kiosks, after you're done at Chili's or Applebee's or something like that, they'll ask you to fill out a survey. And one of the things they'll ask you in that is, how likely is it that you will visit one of their restaurants in the next 3 months? And their managers and their restaurant personnel are very much gauged on how you answer those questions. So those customer relations and customer satisfaction measurements and metrics are very, very important. Quality, part of the quality management framework that and operations framework that many businesses work with. But just in general, you have goods, quality of goods, and you have quality of services. So the quality of goods, obviously the physical performance characteristics. The service is being able to consistently meet or exceed customer expectations and system performance delivery. Next part of quality is what you measure it by, and that of course can be tangibles, reliability, responsiveness, assurance, even empathy. If people feel like a business is empathetic to their concerns and what they feel like is important. And then all of this rounds out into assessing what the health of your relationship is with a particular customer. Another area that's getting to be very important is time, measuring the speed of performing a task or delivering a service. And as objective as these measurements might seem, in some ways they're not very objective because they're comparative, is what they actually are. How fast is fast enough? I remember back when FedEx was just getting its legs on the ground, and they developed the concept of next day delivery. And Amazon took that to the next level with their centering it around their whole operations. But FedEx's mantra is when it absolutely has to be there overnight. Well, that was the standard for the longest time. Well, what are you seeing now? You're seeing more and more businesses trying to do same day delivery. So that means that next day delivery may not be fast enough, at least in some consumers' minds. So how fast something is and the time requirements are not as objective as they might seem. They're very comparative. So, and they're also based on what is the perception of the customer in terms of how quickly do they need that. We've all become kind of consumer prima donnas in which we need something now or sooner. So we're getting pretty demanding in that respect. Flexibility, the ability to customize and change designs and requirements for specific customers or customer groups. This is easier in some sectors than it is in others. If you look at the restaurant business, obviously, you look at Starbucks, Chipotle, Subway, their whole models are basically built around customization of what you want for lunch, right? Well, it's much harder to customize certain things than it is others. Cars you can customize to a certain extent if you order them specifically, but if they're setting on the lot, much more difficult to do, obviously. And then volume flexibility, being able to quickly change the volume of products that customers need based on demand. This can get a little bit trickier, but again, some businesses are really finding models and ways to do that. Next, we'll talk about innovation and learning. Innovation is the ability to create new and unique goods and services that delight customers and create competitive advantage. And learning is creating, acquiring, and transferring knowledge within an organization and the ability to do that. Innovation and competitive advantage is much different now than it was even a couple of decades ago. What it means to have, for instance, a first mover advantage is much different than it was a couple of decades ago. The time that you had, or the luxury of time that you had with a first mover competitive advantage, have probably halved at least. If you thought you had a couple of years before, now you might be lucky if you have 6 months to a year to enjoy that competitive advantage before everybody else is caught up with the transfer of technology, information flow, things like that. Now, if you have patent protections, that obviously can stretch that out, but a lot of the smaller little innovations don't necessarily qualify for those types of protections. Productivity and operational efficiency. There's the definition for productivity. Operational efficiency is the ability to provide goods and services to customers with minimum waste and maximum utilization of resources. Again, with the pandemic and some of the things that we're going through right now, what was sufficient for operational efficiency a year ago may not cut the mustard right now. You're seeing a lot of really good, really solid companies that are having to take out bankruptcy right now because with this new environment, the efficiency levels that you had to have before aren't necessarily what works in today's environment. So you see, I just saw a company, Steinmart, that declared bankruptcy. They're liquidating out all of their stores. They're basically liquidating the whole company. It's over in Greenwich Place on the northeast side of Wichita. Wonderful operation, wonderful store. My wife enjoyed shopping there. I'd go over with her from time to time. And it was just a very quality, very well-run operation. But they had to probably beefed up on their debt a little bit more than they maybe should have. And so they could not achieve the operational efficiencies to be able to service that debt. And so unfortunately, they're having to take bankruptcy and liquidate the company. Another area that's kind of interesting, and I'll be posting a video about this on the site if you want to check it out. It'll be under supplemental videos, is what's called the triple bottom line. And the definition of that is the triple bottom line aims to measure the financial, social, and environmental performance of a company over time. It consists of three elements: profit, people, and the planet. And again, as we get into a world where global warming, climate change is such a big part of the landscape, many people are going to be paying attention on this level. They're going to be choosing who they do business with, who they invest in, based on how they feel like your scorecard is on these key areas and these key developments. So really important to pay attention to. This is the video that I'll be posting today, Pursuit of a Triple Bottom Line. It's a TED Talk, so you might want to check that out. It's a very good video. Analytics and operation management helps operations managers analyze data effectively, make better decisions. Applications, visualizing data to examine trends. And a lot of the softwares today make it easier to visualize data because it gives it to you in a much more user-friendly format. Calculating basic statistical measures, comparing results relative to other business units, competitors, best-in-class benchmarks. In our business that we had some really good best-in-class benchmarks. They called them cost of doing business studies. We had one from our manufacturer, Case IH, and we had another one from our trade association. And both of them gave us tremendous information based on comparing our performance to others in the industry, even high-performing dealers in the industry, things like that. And then using correlation and regression analysis to kind of analyze that data. Statistics involves collecting, organizing, analyzing, interpreting, and presenting data. A statistic is a summary measure of data. Descriptive statistics refers to methods of describing and summarizing data using tabular, visual, or quantitative techniques. We use a lot of descriptive statistics. If you're reading something on the news feeds and it has a chart and it's showing you what a certain measure has done over time, say age of marriage or something like that, and it shows that the average age of marriage has gone up over the last 30 years, that is a descriptive statistic. Statistics, as much as they kind of get muddled up with the science and just the math of it all, they're absolutely necessary. We use them constantly. They provide the means of gaining insights both numerically and visually into large quantities of data. So statistics are a way of bringing all that into focus. Operations managers use statistics to gauge production, quality, performance, and then help process and design improvements. If you'll notice, with the Newman University School of Business, all of our business schools students have to have probability and statistics. And there's a very good reason for that. It's important to be able to understand trends, patterns, and assess risk. The good news is with statistics is there's a lot of statistical modeling tools and software out there. I know when I did my doctorate, we had to work with a lot of statistics to do our research studies for our dissertations, and I could have never gotten through all of that without all of that software that was available, and it really helps you knock through the worst of that. So, but statistics is very important for business students, and that's why it's a requirement of all of our different majors. Quantitative modeling, so we're going to talk about interlinking now. Excuse me, got the cart ahead of the horse. Interlinking is quantitative modeling of cause and effect relationships between external and internal performance criteria. Helps quality performance relationships, helps quantify performance relationships between all parts of the value chain. Again, with my previous business, we were a dealer for Case IH in the agricultural equipment industry, and they would provide their dealers and associations all sorts of linkages to help us understand our business better. It could be on production cycles and their impact on inventory need, or they would provide us commodity and livestock pricing patterns and the link those prices had on how much we could command in the marketplace in terms of pricing and or inventory demand. So those linkages, they would help us try to understand and form those better. They would also work with dealers to establish more mutually beneficial relationships between the manufacturers and the dealers. More effective and efficient parts and equipment ordering systems, for instance, that would help knock inefficiencies out of the systems so that both parties would benefit from that. Interlinking internal and external performance measures. Here's an example on customer satisfaction ratings and time on hold. So the less time on hold, the higher the customer satisfaction rating. And so that just shows one example of that. Again, you can have all of that data, and then you can see where the data points all kind of group up with that line. So that shows you there's a pretty strong correlation between the two. Valued loyal customers. That's something that manufacturers and dealer groups and businesses of all types try to really understand the value of customer relationships, particularly loyal customer relationships. And so in general, I would say the higher the number of customers, probably the less value, because you just have a lot more customers to deal with. With our particular industry in the ag equipment business, we had a finite group of customers that were farmers in any one area. So you had a high value on those customer relationships, and manufacturers and dealers fought very fiercely to protect their turf and not lose customers because we knew they were so valuable and hard to replace. Designing measurement systems and operations. This provides the basis for decisions at the level in which they are applied. So trying to get measurement systems and processes and for things like value chain, the organization itself, processes, departments, workstations, jobs, service encounters. And this is where we get into the use of managerial and management accounting. You'll have financial accounting, and then you'll have managerial accounting. Well, the difference is financial accounting is everything that dictates and controls the formal financial statements of a business, the balance sheets, the income statements, cash flow statements, those types of reports. Those are tied to the FASB and the GAAP rules and regulations. So that's the difference there. But managerial accounting and management reports are not tied to those strict rules and regulations. So managerial reports can be put together for specific areas of a business, for specific departments, maybe for specific projects. They're quickly designed and adaptable. And they can use multiple levels of data input and analysis. And they're quickly and efficiently transferable throughout the organization. Again, contrasting that with financial accounting, much, much different on that side. Here's some models of organizational performance. Again, I'll have some videos out there on both the Baldrige and the Balance Scorecard on the supplemental videos on Canvas that you can check out. Four different types: Baldrige, Balance Scorecard, the value chain model, and the service profit chain. The Baldrige Performance Excellence Framework. This helps in the process of self-assessment to understand organization strengths and weaknesses. This is very closely aligned with the total quality management movement and that sphere. There are self-assessments that you get back that you do throughout this analysis, and then you also get a report back at the end of the process that helps you find ways to shore up and improve your systems and your processes. Here's the video that I will be posting. It's a Malcolm Baldrige Award. It's with a healthcare system, I think located in Hawaii. Balanced scorecards, our business worked extensively with these. They translate strategies into measures that uniquely communicate an organization's vision. They can be financial, customer focused, any number of things, but they really can give you a good alignment between your business and what you're seeing and its strategic plan. Any innovation and learning can take place. It can be internally focused and focus attention on the performance of key internal processes and metrics that drive the business. With our balanced scorecard for our business, we looked at it as a four-legged stool. It helped us keep a balance between the key components of our business, and those four legs for us were the customer requirements and satisfaction, what the company needed as a return on investment financially, and employee sustainability, so that we kept a good, healthy employment base, and then finally, to balance the manufacturer market demands and customer demands. So each of those legs had to kind of be the same length, or the table started tilting and things started falling off. So that balanced scorecard really helped us keep an equilibrium within our business between those four key areas. And then it tied to our, and was a driver for strategic and operational plans. And we distributed to key participants and organizational areas of concern. And it was also a driver for our management and operational meeting structure that we did, and even our board meetings. So there's a couple of videos that I'll post right there that you can watch at your convenience if you choose. The value chain model evaluates performance through the value chain by identifying measures associated with suppliers, inputs, value creation processes, goods and service outputs and outcomes, customers and market segments, supporting and general management processes. So it basically evaluates performance and balances performance all the way through your value chain from the start to the finish. Service profit chain model states that employees create customer value and drive profitability through service delivery systems based on a set of cause and effect linkages between internal and external performance. Many participants in the ag equipment industry that we are associated with traditionally viewed the service and parts department as a loss leader. We always viewed it as a key profit center for our business. And so we had the focus, the measurement reports, the incentive systems to really back up that focus. And we paid incentives based on service metrics and measures, and we really had a lot of reports to back up and make sure that we had those linkages. Here's a good schematic of the service and profit chain model. Some of the key terms that we've talked about through this, and in summary, applications of business analytics helps managers with effective decisions. Interlinking helps quantify performance relationships between all parts of the value chain. ELC helps understand operational decisions on revenue and customer retention, and 4 models of organizational performance help in designing, monitoring, evaluating performance. So this just gives you a little bit of a overview of metrics and how they play into business, how operations and operational managers help drive and gather data and analyze those metrics over time. So we'll be doing a much deeper dive in a lot of these key segments as we go through this semester. So we'll get into some of these areas much more in depth, but for today, that kind of gets us through the biggest share of those. And so that'll kind of get us for chapter 2. We will look forward to talking to you next week, and we'll dive into chapter 3 and start moving through the book from there. So anyway, I hope if you happen to be in quarantine, I hope you find out that you're through the process soon and are able to get back to class. And we'll keep doing these posts just in case you need them. And so that way, if you do feel a little bit under the weather, don't feel pressured to come to class. As a matter of fact, pretty much the rule of thumb, if you don't feel good, just go ahead and stay away, and we'll be there when you come back. We'll have these types of tools like these video posts that you can kind of utilize to help fill the gaps for you. All right. Well, we will look forward to seeing you next week, and hope you all stay safe.